The table was too long for the room. 8 feet of polished veneer jammed between beige walls and half-drawn blinds, its presence forcing chairs into corners, bodies into silence. We rented the place for the weekend, a sun-bleached house outside Phoenix, the kind that looks better in real estate photos than it lives. Everything inside was brittle. Faux-wood cabinetry, plastic knobs pretending to be chrome. The AC wheezed like a dying animal, fighting a battle against the Arizona heat it was never built to win. Still, we smiled. We laughed. We called it a family getaway. Dana said it would be good for us. Together time. A reset. Her voice held that hopeful edge I used to mistake for sincerity. Now I hear it for what it is, the desperation of someone pretending harder than anyone else. Her parents couldn't make it. Mine did. That was the first mistake. My mother, 72, reserved, painfully polite, had flown out 2 days before. She brought with her a homemade pie, 3 sets of crocheted blankets for the kids, and a quiet optimism that time and distance might finally earn her a place at this table. She called Dana dear, Kayla sweetheart, and offered to help with dishes even before dinner had started. She was the only one who said thank you when I drove the hour and a half to pick her up from the airport. We were seated by 6. Me, Dana, my mother, and the kids, Kayla and her younger brother Mason. The food was warm, the lights low, the conversation thin. I remember carving into dry chicken and trying not to notice the way Kayla kept her phone in her lap, texting between bites. Dana said nothing. That had become a pattern. Say nothing, hear nothing, wait it out. Mason just ate, the quiet, unbothered kind of eating that 10-year-olds do when they don't yet understand tension. It was sometime between Dana refilling her wine glass and Mason asking for more bread that it happened. Kayla looked up from her phone, straight at my mother, and laughed. Not a giggle, not a slip, a sharp, deliberate laugh, the kind meant to be heard. Then she said it, "You're not my real grandma. Stop pretending." The sound hit like a slap in a chapel. Silverware paused mid-air. Mason froze, mid-chew. Dana didn't lift her eyes. And my mother, she smiled. A small, patient smile. The kind she used when someone mispronounced her name or called her Miss instead of Ma'am. She nodded, once tightly, and turned back to her plate. The moment passed, but something irreversible had happened. Something final. No one corrected Kayla. No one told her to apologize. No one said her name. I sat in that silence and felt the temperature of the room drop 20 degrees. It wasn't the words that broke me. It was the casualness. The freedom she felt to say it. The unspoken permission granted by every glance Dana never threw in my direction. The vacuum where discipline should have lived. I looked at my wife. This woman I had built a life around, poured income into, paid therapy bills for, carried through the worst of her divorce, and watched her sip wine like she hadn't heard a thing. That was the moment it clicked. Not just the comment. Not just the laughter. The whole damn truth. To them, I was function. I was foundation. I was support beams and plumbing. I was someone to pay the bills and fix the disposal and answer emails from the landlord. My presence was required. My identity, optional. Family was a word they used when it served them. And now, even my mother, the woman who raised me on her own after my father walked out with a suitcase and a smile, was being humiliated under the same roof I paid to rent. I watched her sit there, nodding politely through the rest of the meal, dabbing at her mouth with a cloth napkin, never once meeting my eye. Not because she was ashamed of what had been said, but because she knew I wouldn't defend her. And she was right. I didn't say a word. I sat and chewed and swallowed like the rest of them. I was complicit. I was a coward. And in that cowardice, I understood something else. They were never going to love me. Not like a father. Not like a son-in-law. Not even like a human being. Because love, at its core, demands recognition. It demands you see the other person not for what they give you, but for who they are when the giving stops. I was never seen. I was only weighed, measured, used. I thought about the lease I had co-signed for Kayla's college apartment, the one she pretended I had nothing to do with. I thought about the orthodontist bills still coming in under my name. The cell phone plan she was on, my plan, my payment, the same one she used to text friends about how weird I was. I had read one once by accident. Or maybe not by accident. Maybe I was looking for confirmation of what I already feared. Weird was the best she could do. Creepy came later. But this night was different. This was not passive disdain. This was open war. And no one lifted a finger to stop it. Not Dana. Not Mason. No one. I wanted to throw my chair back, flip the table, scream. I wanted to tell her who I was, the man who paid for her school, who took her to her first job interview, who stayed up late tutoring her through geometry she refused to learn from anyone else. I wanted to say, you don't get to erase people just because they aren't convenient anymore. But I said nothing, because saying something would have been worse. It would have meant accepting that the line had already been drawn, not by me but by them. After dinner, my mother quietly collected the plates. Dana didn't stop her. Kayla went upstairs with her phone. Mason asked if he could watch a movie. Dana nodded, poured more wine, and walked out onto the deck to smoke. I followed my mother to the kitchen. You don't have to clean, I told her. She gave me a look. Not angry, not sad, just tired. It's what I can do. We washed dishes in silence. The kind of silence you don't break, because breaking it would mean talking about what happened. And neither of us had the strength for that. When she dried her hands and turned to go, she paused at the kitchen door. She's just a child, she said, barely above a whisper. She's 17. She's hurting. She's cruel. She nodded, slowly. She learned it from somewhere. And then she left me there. Hands wet, sink dripping, mind unraveling. I stared at the empty plates, the crumbs, the glasses smeared with fingerprints. I had built this life one choice at a time. One compromise. One swallowed insult. One delayed reaction. And somewhere along the line, I had convinced myself that patience was enough. That time would earn me what biology had denied. But all I'd earned was a seat at a table where my mother could be insulted, and no one would care. I dried my hands, walked to the guest room, closed the door. That night, I lay in bed and watched the ceiling fan spin in slow, uneven circles. Every rotation sounded like a metronome marking the seconds of a life I no longer recognized. In that room, in that house, in the stale air of a family that never was mine, I made a promise. No more pretending. I didn't sleep that night. I watched the numbers on my phone tick upward. 1:47 a.m., 2:32, 3:15, and each minute felt like a nail driven deeper into something I couldn't name yet. Not rage, not even sadness, just recognition. The slow, cold recognition that you've been the only one playing by rules no one else agreed to. At 6:07 a.m., I made coffee. The kind only I drank. Bitter, strong, unfiltered. I stood at the kitchen counter in the hush of that rented house, listening to the drip, drip, drip of a machine I'd brought from home. I didn't trust theirs. That should have told me something years ago. Dana emerged half an hour later. No makeup, hair in a loose bun. She didn't say good morning. Just walked past me, opened the fridge, stared inside like something edible might appear if she waited long enough. I think Kayla wants to go shopping today, she said eventually. No apology, no reference, nothing about last night. Just a pivot. Always a pivot. That was her gift, the ability to pretend smoother than any damage. She's not getting my card, I said. Dana turned, eyes narrowing, not in anger but confusion. The kind people wear when the vending machine doesn't give them what they paid for. What? She's not using my card. She can ask her father. Dana didn't speak for a moment. Then, she didn't mean it. She said it. She was emotional. She was cruel. And you let her be. The fridge door hissed shut. Dana crossed her arms. You're seriously going to hold a grudge against a teenager? I didn't answer. Not right away. I took a long sip of coffee, staring out the kitchen window at the gravel driveway. Dry, cracked, sun-beaten. A perfect metaphor for what I'd become in this family. Useful when you needed a surface to walk on, ignored the rest of the time. I'm not holding a grudge, I said. I'm making a correction. Dana's expression changed. Something tightened around her mouth. She could always sense when I meant it. I wasn't yelling. I wasn't slamming cabinets. That would have been easier for her. Noise she could point to. Drama she could manage. But I was still. And stillness in me meant finality. By noon, the kids were awake. Kayla came down first. Bare feet. Oversized sweatshirt. Phone in hand. Not a glance in my direction. "Can we go to Scottsdale later?" she asked Dana. "I need new shoes." "You'll have to ask Michael," Dana said. Without even looking up from her laptop, Kayla turned to me, not with humility, not even with politeness. Just expectation. "Can I have your card?" There it was. No apology. No acknowledgement. Just an assumption that the ATM still worked, that the faucet still flowed. "No," I said. Her face twisted. "Why?" "Because you're not my daughter." She blinked. A slow, stunned blink. Not because she was hurt, because she'd never heard me say it out loud. Dana stood up. "Michael." "No," I said, turning to her. "She said it first. Last night. You heard it. You just didn't say anything." Kayla scoffed. "Oh my God. It was a joke." "No, it wasn't," I said. "And even if it was, it told the truth." She rolled her eyes. "This is so ****** dramatic." I nodded slowly. "And expensive." Then I left the room. The door to the office closed behind me like a final breath. I sat at the desk, opened the laptop, and began untying the knots I had spent years binding myself with. First, Kayla's health insurance. Policy #2879A. I was the primary. Her mother was secondary. With 3 clicks and 1 confirmation code, I removed her from coverage. Second, the lease. I had co-signed it 6 months ago. I logged into the portal, opened the agreement, and submitted the paperwork to withdraw as guarantor. A brief explanation. Change in financial status. Third, the cell phone plan. Line 4, Kayla. I scheduled a termination for the end of the billing cycle. Let her have a week to find a new one. I wasn't cruel. I was surgical. Next, bank account. The joint one I had set up for her. For emergencies, Dana had said. I transferred the remaining $142.67 back to my savings and requested closure. Then the scholarships. I had spent months helping her apply, filling out parent contribution forms, writing fake letters from her absentee father so she wouldn't lose out on aid. I logged into FAFSA, updated the parent field, removed my income from the equation. It was all legal, all clean. I owed them no explanation, only the courtesy of silence. By the time Dana came in, I was printing the separation notice. 1 page, notarized, no threats, no conditions, just a clear statement. I was no longer financially responsible for Kayla, effective immediately. "You're serious," she said, holding the paper like it might burn her. "I am. You're going to ruin her future over 1 comment." "No," I said. "I'm going to stop pretending I'm part of her future when I'm not even part of her present." Dana sat down hard. Her voice dropped. "She's a kid, Michael. She's 17. She's old enough to know what words mean. Old enough to know what they cost. You're punishing her. I'm letting her live the truth she chose." Dana's voice cracked. "You're abandoning her." "No," I said, standing. "I'm letting her go." The line was drawn. Not with anger. With boundaries. That night Kayla cried. Not in front of me, never in front of me. But I heard it. Through the thin walls. Through the door she slammed. I heard Dana trying to comfort her. Heard the soft, murmured lies. "He doesn't mean it. He's just upset. He'll fix it." But I didn't. I sat at the kitchen table, the same one where I'd been made invisible, and I stared at the empty plate where my mother had eaten the night before. I thought of her quiet dignity, the way she didn't cry, didn't flinch, just endured, and I knew this wasn't just about Kayla. This was about me. This was about reclaiming whatever was left. That evening, I drove my mother to the airport. She didn't bring it up. Not once. But as we pulled into the terminal drop-off, she touched my hand. "You're not wrong," she said. "I know. But it's going to hurt." "I know that too." She nodded, and that was it. No goodbye. No hug. Just the understanding of two people who had finally stopped being polite. When I got home, the lights were off. Dana was in bed. The kids were in their rooms. The house hummed with a silence I hadn't earned. The silence of distance, not peace. I walked through the hallway, touching the walls with my fingertips, like I was feeling the bones of something already dying. In our bedroom, Dana stirred. "Did you drop her off?" "Yes." "She didn't say goodbye." "She didn't need to." Dana sighed. "You're not really going to go through with all this." I didn't respond. I just lay down beside her, stared at the ceiling, and listened to the fan spin. The next morning, the emails began. Policy canceled. Lease removal pending. FAFSA updated. Phone service termination scheduled. And then the first text from Kayla. "What the hell is going on?" I didn't answer, because it was already done. The first real consequence came on a Wednesday. 3 days after I revoked the insurance, 5 days after I withdrew my name from the lease, and exactly 1 week after Kayla told my mother to stop pretending. It arrived as an envelope. Thin, unremarkable, postmarked from her university. I knew what it was before Dana even opened it. I was in the garage, fixing the door that had been off track since we moved in. Project I had delayed. One of the 1,000 little things I was always fixing. Leaks, drawers, cracked tiles, misfiring lights. All quiet, invisible offerings in a house that never said thank you. Dana stepped into the doorway, still holding the letter. Her face was pale. "You need to see this," she said. "No," I said, wiping my hands on a rag. "You need to." She didn't move. "They're saying the tuition payment bounced." I kept my eyes on the wrench in my hand. It didn't bounce. I canceled it. "Michael, I told you." She stepped further into the garage, voice rising, tone sharpening like it always did when control slipped through her fingers. "This is serious. They're threatening to drop her enrollment. She can call her father. He won't answer. Then she can live with the silence." Dana stared at me like I'd grown horns. "You're punishing her future because of a dinner table comment?" I set the wrench down. Slowly, deliberately. "She declared I wasn't part of her life," I said. "I'm simply honoring her words. She didn't mean it. She meant it enough to say it in front of my mother." Dana's arms folded across her chest. Her body was tight, coiled, defensive. "She's a kid, Michael." "No," I said. "She's a young adult. One who's benefited from a lie we all pretended was truth. But not anymore." The silence between us thickened. It wasn't a fight. It wasn't even grief. It was recognition. She knew I was serious, and she knew there was no going back. That evening, the phone calls began. First to Dana, then to me. Kayla, frantic, her voice trembling. The same girl who laughed while shaming my mother now cried into voicemails, saying it wasn't fair, that she didn't understand, that this was a mistake. She used that word again and again. Mistake. As if disrespect could be undone by panic. I didn't return her calls. Instead, I watched the machine do its work. On Thursday, the cell service cut. I know the moment it happened because Kayla called Dana from her roommate's phone. She was crying now. Full sobs. No script. No arrogance. Just the sound of someone used to safety feeling the first real chill of exposure. Dana stood in the kitchen, listening, nodding. She didn't defend me. She didn't blame me either. She just kept whispering, I know, like a metronome trying to keep time in a burning building. When she hung up, she said, "She's scared. She should be. She's never had to think about money. She still doesn't." Dana gave me a look. Tired, unreadable. "You're not angry anymore, are you?" "No," I said. "I'm awake." Friday morning brought the lease fallout. I received a call from the landlord, confused and nervous. "I just got notice you're removing yourself as guarantor," he said. "Is this correct?" "It is." Well, I mean, the lease isn't up for another 6 months. We kind of counted on that security. I understand, I said. Silence on the other end. Then a hesitant, does she know? She will. I hung up before he could finish his sentence. By Saturday, the financial aid office had contacted Dana. Her voice shook when she told me, they need a new parent contributor. Since you're no longer listed, the package doesn't hold. The tuition estimate changes. How much more? 8,000. I nodded. That's what respect costs. You're serious? I didn't answer, because there was nothing left to explain. That night, Kayla came home. I was sitting on the porch. The sun had just dipped below the horizon, bleeding the sky in orange and violet. The cicadas were screaming in the trees. Arizona dusk. Sharp, brutal, honest. She pulled up in the Honda I'd helped her finance. Slammed the door harder than necessary. Her eyes were puffy, makeup smeared. Her hair pulled back in a way that said she hadn't slept. She stormed past me, but I didn't move. Inside, I heard her voice. First to Dana, then rising, accusing, loud, then silence, then footsteps, then the door opened again. Kayla stood there, silhouetted in the frame. 17, thin arms crossed, rage bubbling beneath the surface of her voice. You're ruining everything. I didn't answer. She stepped closer. You know he won't pay. You know he doesn't care. And you're still doing this. Yes, I said. Why? Because you said I'm not your father. She opened her mouth, but I cut her off. I'm not doing this to punish you. I'm doing this to stop lying to myself. Her voice cracked. You're destroying my life over one comment. One truth, I said. She looked away. When she spoke again, it was quieter. I didn't mean it like that. I know. She blinked. Then why are you doing this? Because even if you didn't mean it, you meant it enough to believe you could say it without consequence. Silence. I stood. You wanted to be separate, untethered. You wanted the freedom to reject me. This is what it looks like. Financial freedom comes with emotional independence. Congratulations, you're getting both. She stared at me, and for a moment I saw it. The realization that the safety net had a cost. That the man who cooked her meals, paid her bills, repaired her car, and sat through years of silence wasn't a service. He was a person. And that person had left the table. She didn't cry. Not then. She just turned. Walked back inside. Slowly. Not stomping. Not slamming. Just walking. Like someone who'd found the edge of something she never thought had a border. Later that night, Dana came to bed without a word. Her back turned. Her body curled in on itself like she was shrinking to fit inside the lie we used to live. I didn't touch her. Didn't speak. We weren't at war. We were something worse. We were two people who had stopped pretending at the same time, but for different reasons. I lay there for hours, staring into the dark, thinking about every Christmas morning, every late-night tutoring session, every dropped-off lunch, every silent ride home after a failed quiz. Thinking about how long I had waited to be seen, how many years I had paid for a place at a table I was never invited to, and how good it finally felt to stand up and walk away. The house changed. Not all at once, not like a window shattering. More like the slow seep of smoke after the fire's gone out. Quiet, invasive, permanent. No one talked much after that night. The air itself carried a different weight, like we were all wearing clothes that didn't fit anymore. Kayla moved slower. Her door closed softer. The confidence in her footsteps had gone hollow. I noticed how she asked Dana for rides now. How her voice tightened when she said the words, my dad, but didn't mean me. Not anymore. Mason stayed quiet. Smart boy. He understood something had shifted, though I don't think he had words for it. But he stopped asking me for help with math. Stopped sitting next to me on the couch when cartoons came on. That stung more than I expected. Children absorb everything. Even silence. Dana kept pretending. At first, she filled the space with small talk, asked me if I wanted coffee, if I needed anything from the store, if I had time to fix the smoke detector upstairs. But I wasn't interested in playing caretaker anymore. The switch had flipped. I answered only what needed answering, gave only what couldn't be delayed. 2 weeks passed before she finally said it. We were sitting on opposite ends of the couch. The television was on, but neither of us was watching. "She's just a kid," she whispered. I didn't reply. She turned to me. I didn't know she felt that way. I looked at her. "Yes, you did." Her eyes welled up, but the tears didn't fall. "I didn't think it would hurt you like this. That's the problem. You never thought it would hurt me at all." She didn't argue. She knew. I don't think Dana hated me. Not really. I think she hated that I stopped being useful without warning. She had spent years balancing the ecosystem of our house, letting the kids reject me in private while expecting my devotion in public. It had worked because I let it, because I loved her, because I believed love would be enough. I was wrong. The financial bleed had stopped, but the emotional hemorrhage had only just begun. Kayla started applying for part-time work. I saw the resumes on the printer. I never said anything. She found a new guarantor for her lease, her aunt, I think. She got on a different cell plan. Cheap, limited data. I noticed how she checked her usage now, counting her hours like they had weight. They do. The day she finally got hired at a clothing store downtown, Dana told me over dinner. "She's trying, Michael." I nodded. "Good. She's scared." So was I. For years. "You're still angry." "No," I said. "I'm just done." That's when Dana broke. She set down her fork, pushed the plate away, and stared at me like she was seeing something behind my face. "You didn't just stop helping her. You stopped helping us." I said nothing. She leaned forward. "You've withdrawn. From everything. From me. From Mason. From this whole house." "I stopped pretending," I said. "That's not the same as stopping love." I looked at her for a long time before answering. "It is when the love is one-sided." She didn't speak after that. She didn't need to, because we both knew what had died in this house. And we both knew it wasn't Kayla's tuition. It was the illusion that I had ever truly belonged. I wasn't Kayla's father. I never had been. That was clear now. But worse, I wasn't Dana's partner. I was her buffer, her fixer, her quiet solution to all the things her ex never took care of. That's why she loved me. I made life easier. And when I stopped, she didn't know who I was anymore. A month passed. Then 2. The calls from Kayla stopped altogether. She avoided the house when she could. Mason followed her lead not out of anger, but survival. Dana and I became shadows to one another. We ate in the same kitchen, slept in the same bed, spoke in practicalities. Then, one night, Dana stood in the doorway of our bedroom with her suitcase. "I'm taking Mason to my sister's for a while," she said. I nodded. "Okay." She hesitated. "Do you want me to come back?" I looked at her, really looked at her. At the woman I'd loved, the children I'd raised, the years I'd spent kneeling under the weight of their expectations. I thought about how much I'd given, and how little I'd been seen. "No," I said. "I think we're done pretending." She left the next morning. There were no tears, no fight, no slammed doors, just the sound of footsteps fading into gravel and a house that finally, truly, felt empty. I walked the rooms after they were gone, looked at the shelves I had built, the photos I had framed, the lights I had rewired, all still there. Physical proof that I had existed in this space. But the warmth, the belonging, gone. And in its place something colder, sharper, clearer. A reckoning. Because the truth is this. I wasn't angry at Kayla for what she said. I was angry at myself for needing to be accepted. I was angry for building my identity around someone else's children. I was angry for mistaking duty for love, sacrifice for significance. And most of all, I was angry that I let it go on for so long. Love, real love, does not require proof. It does not demand co-signatures and payments and quiet tolerance. It respects. It remembers. It sees. And if it doesn't do those things, it isn't love. It's convenience. And I was convenient. Until I wasn't. I still get updates. Through mutual friends. through emails meant for someone else that never got unsubscribed. Kayla graduated. Mason started high school. Dana moved back into her sister's place. I assume they're doing fine. I hope they are, because I didn't walk away to punish them. I walked away to save whatever was left of me. The man who paid the bills, who taught Kayla how to parallel park, who bandaged Mason's scraped knees, who watched Dana cry through her divorce and swore things would be better next time. That man deserved more than silence and smirks and quiet rejection. And when I realized that, I stopped giving what they refused to value. People say family is about more than blood. They're right. It's about respect. And when respect dies, all that's left is debt. So now I ask you, was I wrong? Was I cruel? Or was this the only way to teach them that love isn't a license to take? And every man has a line, even the ones who stay. Tell me, if you'd been in my place, would you have kept paying? Or would you have closed the door too?